Hello YouTube. Okay, now, today we're going to be talking a bit about Star Wars. Now, every time the original Star Wars trilogy from the late 70s and early 80s has been re-released on, say, DVD or Blu-ray, George Lucas has made changes to these films. And many of these changes have been controversial and have actually caused a lot of hate among Star Wars fans. A lot of us know about the really controversial changes, like the changes which have the most hate, like making Greedo shoot first instead of Han in the bar scene in A New Hope, placing the ghost of Sebastian Shaw at the end of Return of the Jedi with Hayden Christensen, and a lot of these other really controversial changes as well. A lot of these changes, I agree, are really unnecessary, and some of the changes I really don't like. I'm actually somebody who grew up with the 1997 special editions of the original trilogy. I never saw the films the way they were originally released. But I've still seen changes since then. Like, I've seen the 2004 DVD release and the 2011 release, and I still know of a lot of the changes that were made in the 1997 release, and I still think that some of the changes were really unnecessary. However, I feel like some of these changes that were made to Star Wars actually improved the films and actually did make the films better. And today, I'm going to be listing the top 5 best Star Wars changes. Before I begin, let me just say that this is all my own personal opinion. Now, if you hate any of these changes, that's fine. Like, there's always two sides to every argument. This is just my own personal opinion on as to why I personally feel these changes have improved the films. So I'm going to be listing the top 5 Star Wars changes. Number 5. Making Ewoks blink in Return of the Jedi. When the Return of the Jedi originally came out, the Ewoks, which are the little bears, they didn't blink at all. When it came to the 2011 Blu-ray release, George Lucas went back and made it so now they blink. Now, this change is actually a change which has a lot of hate, believe it or not, but I like it because it makes them more realistic. It takes away that creepy stir that they have all the time. And I think it's probably something that George Lucas would have done to begin with if he had the technology to do so. If it hadn't been done, I probably wouldn't have thought anything about it. But I thought it was a pretty neat change to make. I don't think it was a massively important change to make, but we're at the bottom of the list, aren't we? Number 4, changing the tune at the end of Return of the Jedi. When we come to the celebration right at the end of Return of the Jedi, when they're celebrating like the end of the Empire, there was originally a song that was sung by the Ewoks, which in my opinion was absolutely horrible. But in the 1997 special edition, they went back and changed it to actually a really nice soundtrack, which had much more of a sense of victory to it. And in my opinion, it fit far better with this scene. Like, it felt like it belonged there. I'm possibly biased because this was the version that I grew up with, as I didn't grow up with the original, but I do actually think that the new one does sound better. Also, I do actually think with the prequel trilogy and the original trilogy being part of the Star Wars saga, I kind of think this whole scene and this soundtrack actually, it gives even more of a sense of victory, because not only is it the end of the Empire, but the Sith is destroyed as well. So I'd actually say that this was quite a good change in my eyes. Number 3. Making Yoda CGI in The Phantom Menace. Now, of course, since the prequels are much newer than the original trilogy are, there have been hardly any changes made to them. But one of the few changes that they did make is changing Yoda to CGI in The Phantom Menace. Now, in Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, Yoda was already CGI. However, in The Phantom Menace, when it originally came out, he was actually a puppet. And while the puppet in the original trilogy was great, the puppet in Episode 1 looked absolutely terrible. He also looked absolutely nothing like the Yoda from the original trilogy. He just looked like a joke. In the 2011 Blu-ray release, they actually went back and changed him into a CGI character, and in my opinion, the CGI version is just so much better. I mean, not only does it look better, but there's more expression to it, there's more emotion, and it also fits better with the other two prequels as well. And it actually does, I think it resembles the original trilogy's Yoda more than what the original puppet did, believe it or not. So, for that, I really think that the new Yoda is actually an improvement. Number 2, changing from English to Arabash in A New Hope. Now, when the very first Star Wars film, A New Hope, which was back then just called Star Wars, came out, every form of writing seen on like computer screens, like in the starships or whatever, was in English. However, when The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi came out, all the writing was in Aurebash, which is basically the Star Wars language, the language of that galaxy, basically. Now, this is also the language you'll often see in the expanded universe, like the books, comics, video games, etc. But Lucas didn't really come up with this language until Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. And at some point early on, they went back and changed the writing in A New Hope from English to Arabash as well. And if you ask me, this change was far for the better. I mean, having all the writing in English in A New Hope, when everything else Star Wars related is in its own language, it just doesn't work. It doesn't really fit. Like, it just doesn't make sense how all the language in The Empire Strikes Back and every other Star Wars film is in its own language, but in A New Hope it's in English. So if you ask me, this change was just far for the better. Number 1, switching the original actor of the Emperor in Episode 5 to Ian McDiarmid. In Return of the Jedi and the Star Wars prequels, Ian McDiarmid played Darth Sidious, aka the Emperor. But in The Empire Strikes Back, the very, very short scene of the Emperor that we have, where we see the hologram of the Emperor, he wasn't played by Ian McDiarmid. It was actually a mixture of a few things. It was Elaine Baker, and they inserted chimpanzee eyes onto Elaine Baker, and then they used the voice of Clive Revel, hologram that we have of the Emperor in The Empire Strikes Back, the original one. It looks really odd. But in the 2004 DVD release, they went back and inserted Ian McDiarmid as the Emperor into that scene. And if you watch the old scene and the new scene together, the new scene just looks so much better, at least in my opinion. It also works better for continuity to have the same actor playing the Emperor whenever he's on screen. It works especially well for someone who's watching Star Wars for the first time, and they're watching all 6 episodes back to back. Now, I've met people who were actually totally confused when they were kids when watching these films, being totally confused as to why the Emperor looks so different in Episode 5 from the way he does in the others. And so really, if they actually change it, by changing the original actor to Ian McDiarmid, it fixes this continuity error, and actually it just works so much better. Okay, so that was my top 5. That was the list of my top 5 best Star Wars changes. George Lucas has made a lot of changes when he was behind Star Wars. He's no longer in charge of it now. It's Disney who's in charge of it. There was one change that he didn't make, which I've never quite understood why he hadn't. Why hadn't he fixed all the inconsistencies in colour with the lightsabers in the original trilogy? I mean, when you watch the original trilogy and you see all the lightsabers and the lightsaber fights and the lightsabers being used, the lightsabers keep on switching colours. I mean, like, they keep on going from like blue to white to green. You know, like a lot of people haven't noticed it, but it is still an issue. Like, when you watch it, the lightsabers keep on having like slight glitches. Like, they change colour for like a millisecond and then change back to the original colour. I don't quite understand why it's not been altered. I've even seen videos on YouTube where fans have attempted to fix the problems and done it themselves. So I don't quite understand why that's not been one of the changes that's made. Why have so many other things been changed, but the lightsabers haven't been changed and haven't been fixed? I don't quite get that at all. Some of the changes that have been made have even been really unnecessary, but that change, which actually would be a necessary change, hasn't been changed. Anyway, that was my list of the changes which I feel actually did improve the films. Thank you for watching. Please let me know what changes you liked, or what changes you didn't like, or maybe if you didn't like any of the changes. Feel free to let me know below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye for now.